Hey, everybody, welcome to Another Bad Call, the podcast that proves the refs aren't the only ones who get it wrong. It is Monday, September 30th, and we are recording in the middle of yet another Monday Night Football doubleheader. As much as I love football, I'd like to get back to just one game on Mondays. It's just getting too much for me to try to keep track of and take care of the kids and do all the other stuff. What about you, buddy?
I was going to say, I'm not a fan of this two-game, except for perhaps Seattle and Detroit will save us from Tennessee and Miami, because that game is ugly football.
Yeah, that game is rough. Will Levis gets hurt early. People will have seen this by the time this comes out, but diving, trying to make a play, lands on his own shoulder. But he held on to the ball. That's a positive.
Well, I mean, he was out of bounds, so it didn't matter either way.
Yeah.
But
all field goals so far in that one. That's about it. The Lions Seahawks game, that's been fun so far. The little bits and pieces that I've been able to see, as I mentioned, my wife's working and trying to get the kids ready for bed and everything. I've seen like 5 minutes of football total, but it looks great. The Lions unis tonight, buddy, are fire. I love those unis tonight. They all black with that blue.
You like that?
I like it.
4 rushing touchdowns, I think, so far.
Yeah. Right before we started, I placed a bet on a anytime Jackson Smith and Jigba, a David Montgomery with a second touchdown, and a Jahmyr Gibbs with a third touchdown. Okay. Obviously a long shot hit, but why not? At this pace, Jahmyr's already got 2, Montgomery's already got 1. Let's see what happens. But I feel like that's a good segue right into our Tales of a Degenerate.
Yeah, buddy.
So my local degenerate, what do you got for us this week?
All right, we're going into week 4 of my super contest picks. I come into week 4 8-7, and I am not going to leave with a winning record at this point. Unbelievably bad run here. I had Steelers -1.5. They lose to the Colts outright. Texans -6.5, and they played a close division game, which didn't really think Jacksonville had it in them. I had the Cardinals -3.5, and they just ran into that buzzsaw Washington team. I guess I got to start believing in them. And whatever the Bills did last night, they didn't come to play football. So
the Bills look like every team they've played in the last couple of weeks.
Exactly. And at this point, the last pick of the 5, I got Lions -3.5. They are up 2 touchdowns. We'll see if they can hang on to that and at least scrape 1 win out. But obviously those picks did not go very well. And I can't say that I feel like I made bad picks, really, because I don't think that the Steelers lose if Anthony Richardson doesn't get hurt. And
I mean, Texans, highly possible. Yeah,
the Texans, that was a little shocking, and the Bills. I mean, I could see them losing, but I did not see them getting walked over the way they did last night.
Yeah, that game, like I said, the Bills looked like probably not as bad. I don't know which was worse, the beating they put on the Dolphins or the beating they put on the Jags. Either way, it was bad, but they looked like their opponent from those 2 weeks last night. That was not anywhere near as good a game. The only one that I might have questioned you on, honestly, when looking at those picks, is probably the Cardinals one. And not because I don't think they're going to score anything, but just because Washington is riding such a high momentum and Daniels is playing at such an efficient level right now. But I can totally see the bet. The rest of them felt like no-brainers.
I believe it was in Arizona, and my thinking on it was a rookie traveling,
Yeah.
that far out west, and I
Yep.
had a little bit of thought behind it, but it just goes. I'll tell you, I've never really sat and tried to make picks against the spread, like multiple on a weekly basis, so it's not as easy as you think.
Yeah. I mean, doing money lines is difficult enough, right? I mean, but doing the spread's a whole nother ball game.
Yep.
I had some flat out money line bets yesterday that I said, I mean, the Steelers, that should have been an easy win over Indy, honestly. Indy's not good against the run, and they went in there and, I mean, just they couldn't run the ball. It was not good.
Right. And somehow
Anyway,
Justin Fields,
let's keep going.
Fields puts up a monster fantasy game. So
yeah,
ridiculous.
He goes over 300 yards passing and 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah. So, but I mean, we're used to that, him putting up gaudy stats and still losing. So, but my other thing I did, I put the 4 to score out again this week for anytime touchdown bets. Did better than I did last week. I hit on 2 of them. Had Nico Collins at even money and George Kittle at plus 135. Both found the end zone. Saquon Barkley had a goal line rush. Should have had it. And then T. Higgins, that one was kind of the long shot. I just thought maybe second week back that he might do it, but
yep.
The only thing that salvaged my weekend was our Illini, because that minus or plus 19 spread against Penn State was just too juicy for me to pass up, and I put a decent amount of money on it. Really covered my weekend for that. So
good. Yeah, I was in the same boat with you. I had T. Higgins. That's probably what happened. We both bet T. Higgins to score. That's anytime we bet the same thing, it's definitely not gonna go well. I will commend you. You got those bets out, those 4 to score, Saturday afternoon or late Saturday morning, technically, for some people. So, oh no, Sunday morning.
No, it was Sunday morning.
I just looked Sunday morning. Maybe we got to get those out on Saturday. I was like, hey, you get it out on Saturday. That's good. Watch out for those. Justin, post those over there on at Another Bad Call on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, little bird thing.
Twix. I don't know.
Yeah. So, that sounds delicious.
Yeah.
I'm fat. Yeah. So watch for those. He puts those out there. That's his new weekly thing. Maybe don't follow him because he hasn't hit yet, but he puts them out there.
I'll get better. Don't worry. It's bound to come.
All right. Before we get on to the main event, if you've stuck around this long, we'd appreciate you. Please go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, comment any of your bets that you've made. We'd love to see those so that it's not just us 2 idiots, looking like fools. But I think it's time we talk about the main event here, buddy.
Let's get it.
As always, it's Bears game. We got a win to talk about. Bears beat the Rams 24-18. Had to double check that score there.
Yeah.
This was not on my list of wins. When we went through and did our predictions, I believe this is one I said they would lose. But I had them beating the Colts last week, so I guess the flip flop it plays, it works. We're at 2-2, which is about where I said we would be at this point in time. Definitely not the way I thought it would happen. Overall, buddy, what are your quick thoughts of the game, and then we'll start dissecting it down a little bit.
Quick thoughts were, at the beginning of the game, I thought, oh no, here we go again. But this one definitely was not on my radar for them to win. I thought it was I definitely thought they would win last week, and it kind of turned into a must win in my book if they want to have a chance of competing for one of the playoff spots. Because their division is super tough.
I saw there was a comment in I think it was pregame or early on the game that so far in this playoff format or whatever, no team that started 1-3 has made the playoffs. Right, so it was kind of that must win to give yourself a shot. Now it doesn't mean it can't happen. It just odds are.
And we'll get to it. We'll get to it a little bit
Yeah.
what's coming up ahead. But let's just keep talking about this game.
Yeah. Do we have a run game now? What's your thought on that? I mean, we go for 131 on the ground, right? The previous 3 weeks we go 84, 71, 63. 131 this time. Do we have a run game? Yes or no? And then show your work.
I'm gonna lean towards probably not as much as what that looked like. I mean, the Rams are not good at it, and it took them a while in that game to figure it out, because at the beginning it wasn't working, and I was like, that's what I was alluding to when I was questioning. They did all this talk about, oh, Roshan's going to get a bigger chunk of it, and they just come out, and at the beginning Swift just did the same. The offensive line continues to look suspect at best. Different guys at different times looking pretty dang bad. It's not all of them. Sometimes it's all of them all at the same time, but usually, like, a lot of times it's like a different one getting beat. That, like, Braxton Jones, Jared Verse was blowing Braxton Jones up all day long.
Yep.
And Tevin Jenkins went down, so we had to get Nate Davis back out there on the field, which I didn't like. I do kind of think that Matt Pryor is a better addition to the line. I don't know if they've got everything worked out. And Darnell Wright is nasty as he can be. He's still having some struggles.
Yeah, I don't want to go full blown offensive line discussion just yet here, but I'm with you. I'm gonna say our ground game's not there yet, because the Rams are 32nd in rush yards given up this year too, and I believe that this 131 is the fewest that they've given up this year. So they have 163 that they've given up, and then another one over 200. So I'm not gonna say there. Well, we'll touch on that in a minute. Let's keep talking about the running a little bit, but let's flip sides. Let's talk about our run defense.
Yeah,
because it's not as good as I had hoped. As good as this defense is, the rush defense does not look great to me. This is the second time we've given up 200 yards, and it is the first time that the Rams have eclipsed 100 rushing yards.
Yeah,
this year.
We do know that they like to run the ball, but we should have known that they kind of have to run the ball because of their wide receiver room being half out. So, you should have known to key on Kyron Williams. The thing that you said, did they look defeated? But I mean, from the start, that first drive, the Rams just kind of ran it down their throat from the beginning. Like, they just didn't look like they were ready to start the game. And as is per usual, the defense, I don't understand it. The defense for the Bears looks like a different team every week coming out of the half.
Yeah.
They're so dang good in the second half that it's almost mind-boggling that they could have some of the struggles that they do in the first half.
I'd be really curious. I need to go look into this as you're talking about it. I'm wondering, because our pass defense is the way it is, right? I'm not going to say like really super good, but that's pretty damn good, right? Is our defense just designed to funnel that run game, but squeeze it between the 20s, right? So I'd need to go back and look and see like where that success is. Because they do seem to do a decent job of clamping down once they get inside that point, but maybe that's something I need to look at. Maybe they're funneling towards the run game.
I mean,
right?
that could be. They certainly
you take out the big plays that way.
Tend to play over the top. They try to keep everything in front of them. Don't don't have the big play deep against you, because that seems to happen a lot too. There'll be a lot of passes right in the middle of that zone that seem to come really easy, especially for the good quarterbacks we're going against. They'll get a receiver that goes sits down right in the middle of the zone there, and he seems like there's nobody within 5 yards of him.
And we are all too familiar as Bears fans of a safety coming down too deep and getting beat over the top to break our hearts on a regular basis. That feels like that's at least a once a year thing. But all right, let's keep moving on here. Caleb Williams, is he showing signs of progress for you that you are happy with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from what I'm seeing, like there were two passes in particular. This is besides the progression. There were two passes that I would deem were pretty elite.
Ooh, can I guess what they were?
Yeah, go ahead.
One of them, I believe, was the one that get called back where he like side dumped to Swift across the middle. I think it was Swift across the middle. Like he was getting a little check down, and he did a little like side toss over his shoulder.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that one, but that was not one of the two that I'm referencing.
The touchdown toss to Moore.
Yeah, that
for sure.
Where he read that he had a linebacker on him, and he put it in the only spot that could have been.
Yeah. All right, what's the other one?
The other one was to Cole Kmet over the middle. Just like he just dotted that ball right in the middle of about three defenders, right to where, and it was in a big spot in that game.
Yeah, big credit to Kmet too for making that catch, because he had to reach out and get it, but like you said, that ball was placed basically where it had to be. So yeah, absolutely. My progression is actually because of his progressions, right? Like we've seen throughout the first 3 weeks that they'd be, in a second and long, third and long, or whatever, and instead of taking his check down and getting those profit, as they were calling it on the broadcast, he would go deep, like try to, almost as I dub it, hero ball, just trying to get those big chunks. And instead, he started taking those little gains that put you in a better position. I love to see that. Obviously, we don't want to do that all the time, because that's, after a while you dink and dunk yourself to losing games. But being able to look at it and say, hey, I'm not going to get 15 yards here, but I can get 5. I can get 6. Yes, because in a game where every inch matters, get those 4 yards, especially on that second down, right? So I loved seeing that huge progression right there.
Yeah.
Good.
The other thing is taking less sacks. He had taken, I think, technically he took 2 sacks in the first game against the Titans, but he got hit a lot, and he was scrambling around. And then he got sacked 7 times by the Texans. He got sacked 4 times last week. He did get sacked 3 times this week, but I think twice were when Verse just absolutely ran through Braxton Jones. There was really nothing he could do.
Yep.
And so he's throwing the ball away too, in instances. Like, I mean,
yeah, you can see him starting to process faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I see some comments online from some dopey fans that are saying, "Oh, he needs to get rid of the ball faster." He's got one of the lowest time to throw from any quarterback in the league right now. He's not holding.
Literally has the smallest amount of time to throw.
Yeah, really. Really. I mean, they can't all be screen passes. As much as, Shane Waldron seems to like the screen passes quite a bit, but
listen, some of those screen passes, I will say they count as runs in my book, but we'll, all right, you brought him up. Did Waldron call a better game this week?
He started to. he didn't start off so good. The scripted stuff in the beginning, I did not think was very good. It was not effective, and being effective and being good are two not necessarily the same thing. But I didn't think it was aggressive enough. I don't think that they were designed run. I don't think personnel usage was that great in the first couple of drives. So, but they started going. He started getting the plays in faster. They sped up their cadence, which I think that partially put the Rams defense on their heels a little bit. And Caleb was ready to rock and roll, once they got into a rhythm and everything. I think that really helped. Now you can't go go high speed the whole time, but it helps.
Yeah, a couple things I want to touch on there. Number one, the aggressiveness. It's funny that you use that word because it came out that a couple of the players, captains, met with Waldron prior to this game and were like, "Hey, like, coach more aggressively. We need that. We want that. Let's go." Now, I haven't read in all the ins and outs of that to see, did they mean we want you to be a little bit tougher on us, or do you want us to be more aggressive in the game? Because I think some of the aggressiveness in the game was a little much for me personally. But maybe it was a mentality or an attitude. Just funny that you used that. 23 passes this week, right? It's the fewest that they've done this year. 28 rushes. It felt like they rushed more, but I think it's just they actually passed less. When I look into it, they had 22 rush attempts in week 1 and in week 2, 28 rush attempts in week 3 and in week 4. They didn't have to pass 57 times or whatever. The difference in those 28 rushes was the success rate this time, right? And those screen passes, those little dump passes off to Swift were paying off too. He seemed to feel like he was involved and get a little pop, which is good and hopefully continues to go forward.
It was good to see. It was good to see Swift because, it was starting to feel like Swift was a complete sunk cost on his contract. And
yeah, I mean, it was
I think
basically
he's
at the point where we thought
every week. No, but
we thought Roshan should be the lead back at that point in time, right? Just because he had more juice. And I'm still a fan of hitting him with that 1-2 because I think Roshan gives you more of that beastly pop. But I'm obviously not a professional, so what do I know? I hope they can continue this type of thing where they don't have to rely on Caleb throwing significantly more times than what we're rushing. The other thing I want to say here, because you mentioned on it, the scripted plays, not great or whatever, but the adjustments that got made. We're used to the reverse, right? We dealt with 2 years of Getzy and Fields where the first 15 plays or the first quarter worked really well, and then 0 adjustments were made, and the next 3 quarters were awful. I mean, Fields was one of the most efficient, if not the most efficient QBs in the first quarter last year. And then it fell off, and I put a lot of that on Getzy for not making any adjustments. So the fact that we've got a coordinator that can make adjustments and go is good. And that's, I've seen from game to game, not only is Caleb getting better, but I feel like Waldron is making changes too and going, okay, this is a problem. Let's go. There's some accountability there and going, okay, this is on me. Let's start fitting. So while a lot of people, I know a lot of Bears fans are like, hey, this guy sucks, we need to get him out of town. I'm not on that bandwagon. I'm seeing that things are changing. But really what's happening is people were so amped up and just had these ridiculous expectations that when we struggled, who do we fire, right? So hopefully we keep seeing that improvement. And with improvement, let's move on to the upcoming game. We have the Panthers coming up. What is your biggest concern going into this Panthers game? And if you can't decide, you can give me 2 or 3. It's fine.
my biggest concern is the revenge of the red rifle, you know.
Andy Dalton revenge game.
Yeah, he's like on the revenge game tour, but you know, his wide receivers have looked quite a bit better since he took over that role.
That whole offense. Listen, I was going to save this, but since you brought it up, Carolina through 2 weeks had 352 yards of total offense. That's not per week. That's combined week 1 and week 2. And in the last 2 weeks, they've put up 437 and 375. So almost 2.5 times what they put up in the first 2 weeks. This is not the same pushover team that we expected at the start of the year.
I mean, I think a little bit of the last 2 weeks could be explained a little bit based on opponent. It looks like the Bengals have just an atrocious defense, and the Raiders are, you know, not that.
Yeah, but I mean, the Raiders just beat, you know, the week before had beat the Ravens, who just stomped the Bills, right? And the Bengals went toe to toe with the Chiefs. I mean, it's the NFL.
It's a weird league. I don't know what to tell you, man. That's why it's hard to make those bets against the spread.
Yeah.
It's a weird league, but the thing is, I mean, yes, you've got it down here in your notes. The O-line. That's can they please start to do something together? And I guess my other big concern right now for the Bears is I really want to see Williams and DJ Moore start to connect more, be on the same page. Something just doesn't look right with DJ Moore. I didn't think he was that kind of guy. Like, he didn't seem like one of those guys that was. He's not really throwing a fit or anything, but he just looks unsettled. And they're they're not reading the same thing on some of these plays.
So he's put up with a lot of bad QBs, and he was a big Fields guy, but he seems like he's been very supportive of Williams and everything. Here's just my very unprofessional opinion on this. A lot of the throws Williams have put towards Moore have put Moore in a very dangerous position. And he has taken some nasty shots so far because of some of those throws. And I'm wondering how much of it is just like he's hurting and trying not to show it. But he's taken some nasty shots because of some of the throws Williams has done. And I'm not saying he's angry at him or whatever, because it's not like it's the first time he's done it. But that's actually one of my concerns is if they can't figure out how to sync up and find better timing, I have concerns about Moore lasting this season because of some of the hits he's taken early.
Yeah, but then how do you explain when Moore actually beats a guy and Williams goes his way, but Moore has already given up on the route? That's happened a couple of times.
I haven't seen the full on giving up on the route. I'd have to, go back and check.
I mean, that play where he beat his man on a double move and Williams put it there right in the end zone. DJ had let up on his route already.
Yeah. So again, I'd have to go back and look at it and see like what was the cause of the let up? What was the time? Did he shut it down, or did something happen that was he even a read on it?
I'm only saying it because it looked like he shut it down. That was.
Yeah, I know you and Nat have had that conversation. Even saying Adunze shutting down routes too. My thing is if we're just gonna sit here and say all the receivers are shutting down routes, at some point in time, is it the receivers? Like where is the disconnect? And you may be totally right. Moore may have shut it down. I never thought he was that type of guy. I don't see him being that type of guy, but I'm
not saying he's a quitter. It just seems like they didn't read the play the same way. It's a read thing. Like, and obviously they're trusting Williams to make a lot of adjustments at the line, and call out protections and things like that, which says a lot for how they feel about his ability to read things. But they got to be on the same page.
So that brings up an interesting thought with Williams calling out protections and that sort of thing. Do you think our O-line is just that bad, as bad as they are, or do you think there's an issue, like a combined issue of maybe a lack of talent, a lack of time together, play calling, and the protections being called? Like, do you think it's just a perfect storm, or do you think it's just that line is just that bad?
Based on what I've seen, they're pretty stinking bad, man. You get beat one-on-one as many times as these guys are getting beat one-on-one, or letting, standing there not blocking anyone,
Getting thrown backwards 5 yards regularly.
Yeah, I think Braxton Jones actually had 2 sacks yesterday, but
I was just curious. All right, so we've talked about our concerns and whatnot. What's your biggest want? Like, what do you want to see out of this Panthers game here?
All right, so 2 games ago we saw big offense, at least big yardage. Anyway, this past game we saw in control after a while, in control of the game. I still want to see the game. I'd like to see some improvement in the vertical offense. I think that it will make everything a lot easier if you have some success in the vertical offense. It'll help the run. It'll help some of the time, because they won't be able to cheat up so much. But I think it's coming.
Okay.
So
it's funny they say that because I'm looking at it and I want them establishing that run game. I really want them to go in, and whether it be Roschon, whether it be Swift, whatever it is, and just establish that identity early on in the game, and not go away from it too early. The Panthers, when I'm looking at it, have given up 180 yards, 219 yards, 55 yards to the Raiders, but the Raiders rushing is bad, and then 141 yards. So while their offense has improved, that defense is still easily beatable. So that's what I want to see. I want to see the Bears come out and get nasty. I want to see that old brand of Bears football with the add-in of that passing, right? I want them to come out and say, we're going to run it down your throats, and you're not going to do anything with us. Oh, and by the way, when we want to pass over the top, we got you, right?
Well, I want the run obviously to be good, and I think we've seen a little bit of both each way. I'd like it to be together,
Correct. Yep. Absolutely. I think last week was a start of a run game. I want them to build off the momentum and just not say we've got one now, because you played the worst rush defense in the league right now. Don't just count on that. Go out and prove it again,
and really,
against one of the other worst rush defenses.
If you have aspirations of this team having a chance to be at least competitive in the last third of the season to fight for a playoff position, you have to make hay with the schedule that's in front of you right now. There's winnable games in the next 5 weeks.
Yep. And you keep working those kinks out now before we hit those divisional opponents, because it's 3 tough teams now. We thought the Vikings were going to be
God,
kind of easy,
but I have 2 calls that I made at the beginning of the season that right now I'm just going to say I lost. I was wrong. Number 1 is the Vikings. That team is for real. They're coached well. The Vikings are going to be a contender for the NFC. And the other one is Nico Collins, because I said he was going to finish outside the top 24, and he's the number 1 wide receiver right now. So those mea culpa, you gotta make some big proclamations, and when you make the big proclamations, you got to be willing to eat it when they're wrong. So
yeah. Well, good on you for reading those. I think everybody was wrong about the Vikings. I might have warned to not totally discount them out, but I did not plan on them being 4-0. That's for sure. That is absolutely for sure. Mine was a very big conditional. If Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy can be anything close to a quarterback, they were going to be dangerous. And Sam Darnold has been more than close to a quarterback. So, all right, man. Anything else on this game or the Panthers game coming up?
No, I think that's it. Let's get into the bad calls of the week.
Yeah, buddy. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I was gonna say, why don't you go first this week?
All right. Well, let me fire up what we got here because I come with visual aids this week, buddy.
Uh-oh.
Visual aids. All right, let's go ahead and which screen? Here we go. All right. So Thursday night football. Giants Cowboys. This is let me set the stage for you. It is the Giants' first drive in the first quarter. They are driving down. It is 2nd and 7, I believe, from the Dallas 37. So they're getting themselves. They've got some momentum. They're moving. This play is a Daniel Jones rush to the left side for 4 yards. That gets called for a face mask on number 82, Daniel Ellinger.
Let's go back. We were trying to find the penalty and whether or not Bellinger actually got it.
I don't actually know if you're getting the sound on this or not.
Remember, this is a 15-yard.
I am.
But
face mask on 82 blue. He never touches his face mask.
So as you can see right here, Overshown clearly has his hand in Bellinger's face mask. Every angle has shown that Bellinger does not have his hand anywhere near. I mean, it's up, it's up here or whatever, trying to block or whatever, but it's not in the face mask. So
it's
that gets called
where it's supposed to be.
Right. That gets called as a face mask on Bellinger. So it's a 4-yard gain. They call that face mask from the spot, right? So from the 33. It moves them back 15 yards. So now they're 2nd and 18. And instead, it should have been a 1st and 10 at the Dallas 18. So it's a 30-yard swing on top of the fact that's just a pure momentum killer, right? The Giants are driving down, and then you hit them with just a terrible call and a 30-yard swing. They end up getting a field goal. They go on to lose this game. And I realize when it's this early, it's like, is it really that big of a deal? And I say yes. That's a huge one because I'm not saying they necessarily go down and score right there, but they sure as hell have a much better shot from the 18 than they do from the 48. So I really think this was just a terrible call in a situation where somebody's watching this game from someplace else. Fix it. Call in and fix it. It's right there, clear as day. It doesn't take any time. You call in and you fix that right away.
There was another situation in this game where New York calls in and changed the call that happened on the play. Absolutely, that was egregious. The guy who made the call should have realized, Daniel Bellinger's face mask grabbed onto the other guy's hand. I don't know what the hell they were thinking.
Right. Right. It turned into an Autobot or a Decepticon all of a sudden. Just
yeah.
Maybe that's what he meant is that 82 used his face mask, and that maybe that was the flag. Maybe you're not allowed to do that.
It really must be right. They need to get this stuff right because people's jobs and livelihoods are on the line. Yeah. And any little thing that could happen in a game, not saying that it wouldn't happen, but maybe Daniel Jones wouldn't be getting benched going into next week if they had been able to win that game.
Yeah.
So
who knows?
Yeah. No. Good one right there.
What you got for us? That just fired me up. That might be one of the first times we've done a bad call, and I got pissed off afterwards. I'm not even a Giants fan. It's just bad.
I get pissed off all the time at it. Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? So
another bad call. Damn it.
I actually have two. One is personal, and one I'll go ahead and get the personal one out of the way because it's awfully embarrassing when you forget to pick up your son at school. Not only not
Ooh.
only do you forget to pick him up, you think, oh no, he's at home. He got off the bus. He's fine. I got all the time in the world to run all these errands and everything like that. And with the Verizon wireless cell phone issues, they were having trouble getting a hold of me to let me know that I had a son at school to be picked up after his after-school activity. 50 minutes late.
How is he? Is he okay? Is he questioning Daddy's love? Has he gotten a new video game out of you, or what's the?
You know what? He played it cooler than I was. It actually softened the blow for me because I felt like lower than low, below dirt is about how I felt. Not only for the teacher who had to stay around in school an extra hour of her day, and then but for him, I left him. Is Dad coming to get me? And I asked him. I said, "Were you? Did you cry? Were you?" He's like, "No, I was fine. She gave me a snack." Oh, that's great. Because in the past, there have been situations where it would have upset him. I said, "Well, were you worried?" He said, "A little bit." So, yeah, that was a bad call of the week on Dad.
Yep.
Guess who won't be forgetting to pick him up the rest of the year?
Yeah, as I say.
So
that's an alarm in the calendar already.
Yep. Already programmed it. So, my bad call of the week here that I wrote out. I don't. Some people are reading it a couple of different ways, or they did read it differently. But during a press conference this past week, Brett Bielema was talking about the upcoming game against Penn State, and he got clipped in a part where he's talked about Penn State bringing their whiteout energy, and then he kind of under his breath said, "Whatever the hell that means." And that's where it got clipped. And that's where it went wild all over Twitter. That's where the Penn State, bulletin board material, all of that. But if you pull up the full, that's a 21-second clip. If you pull up the full minute 24 clip, he was really praising the history and the program at Penn State and how it is, how great everything is, and how he was so impressed when members of the team, when he was out in Hawaii, came out to greet Joe Paterno's widow, and just how special a program Penn State has had, football wise, and so it got really taken out of context, and it's one of those things that makes you think. Before I react to every little thing that I see on the internet, or especially on Twitter, maybe make sure to read into it a little bit more, so you have the full story behind it before overreacting. I know that I've been guilty of it in the past, but people are going to do things to kind of push their agendas and the narrative the way they want to. So my bad call of the week goes out to the Penn State Twitterverse for really overusing that clip and not having the full context of it.
Yep, 100%. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, I just looked down to see a Amon-Ra St. Brown pass to Jared Goff.
What the?
Perfect time for Montgomery to get 2 or Gibbs to get 3, and instead I get an Amon-Ra pass to Jared Goff.
Oh my goodness.
When I bet, let me tell you, things happen. Not good things, but things happen. And at the same time I'm seeing that, I'm seeing Dolphins fans leaving the stadium as they're losing to the Titans right now. All right, man. Any final thoughts before we dip out of here?
No, not at this time. We're 4 weeks into the season now, and we should start to have some good data on some of these teams moving forward. But gotta enjoy it, gotta make sure, because while 17, 18 weeks of regular season seems like a long time, the first weekend in January seems like it's a long way away. They just go by really fast, so you got to enjoy every week of football that we get.
Yeah, it is September 30th, and it is October tomorrow. I do appreciate you saying no, you don't have a final thought before giving a final thought. That was a really nice way to do that.
Very nat of me, I know. Sorry.
All right. To everyone that stuck around this long, as always, we truly, truly appreciate you. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below of what your bad call of the week is, what your touchdown bets are, any of that sort of thing. Please, we'd love to hear it. Really love that kind of engagement. It's totally free and it helps the channel. Make sure that you pay attention to our add another bad call on X again, probably sometime about 10 minutes before the game starts, so you can get Justin's four to score. And until next time, try to avoid making another bad call.